Agreement Fund Oversight Committee. I'll call the meeting to order, and then I'll call on Representative King for opening prayer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Please join me. Dear God, we pause before you for just a moment before we start our meeting today, just honoring you and making sure that we understand that you're in control of all things, and we thank you for that. We thank you for the change of seasons, the cooler temperatures. We just appreciate everything, and we appreciate most of all you sending Jesus to die for our sins. In his name, amen.
Amen. Okay, we'll rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, and then we'll move on to roll call.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Boswell, Senator Deneen, Senator Harper Angel, Senator Webb, Representative Brown,
Here.
Representative King,
Present.
Representative Pratt,
Here.
Representative Reed, Representative Rorks, Co-Chair Mays Bledsoe,
Here.
and Co-Chair Dossett.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Fantastic. All right, before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to Hillary, who I know is watching at home, wishing you a speedy recovery. We certainly miss you in person and look forward to any criticism and critiques you have of today's meeting. I'm sure you'll have them for us. Next, we'll move on to our Agriculture Development Board. If you all want to join us at the table, Brian and Bill. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Let me do one more. Approval of the minutes for the meeting from August 10th. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Apologies for that. Now you may report from this month's meetings. Welcome, Mr. Lacefield, Mr. McCloskey.
Brian Lacefield, Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy. Thank you, Madam Chair, for having us here today, and appreciate the well wishes to Hillary. I can extend those as well. We will miss her here today. It's good to be back with you all today and report. Luckily, we only have 1 month to go over today, so it won't be quite as long as we were last month. And I can kind of give you a real quick summation of what we've been up to at the Office of Ag Policy and the Department of Agriculture, because we just wrapped up the state fair, and that consumed quite a bit of time for all of our colleagues as we were there. We kick off the state fair every year with the commodity breakfast, and there's a ham auction at this one as well. And we had one of our board members, Mr. Wayne Hunt from back in mine and Co-Chair Dossett's hometown, came up to this one and bought the first ham for $5,000 at the commodity breakfast. The next week, we had the Farm Bureau Country Ham Breakfast, where the big ham is sold, and we saw a new record set for $10 million by Joe and Kelly Craft and Central Bank, when they purchased this ham again for $10 million, all proceeds of both of these auctions going to charity. But I was sitting with Mr. Hunt, and I told him if I was him, I would have his ham reappraised. It might be worth a little bit more now than what he gave. But very appreciative of all the bidders and everybody involved in that doing such good work. The state fair was back to crowds we had pre-pandemic. It was a great experience. I know my team spent a lot of time in ag land, got to see a lot of folks. We there we go. Had some notes there. Other items that happened. Doug Lawson, a 19-year board member for the Kentucky Ag Finance Corporation. His term was up for reappointment, and he decided after 19 years it was time to take a break and let others serve. And we really appreciate all that Doug brought to the table. A very strong lender, Western Kentucky presence. Was very pleased the commissioner reappointed or made a new appointment to another strong banker from Western Kentucky. But Lori Knoll, who is the Chief Credit Officer and Executive Vice President for F&B Bank, was recently named to the board and began service last week with her first board meeting, and it's going to bring a lot to the table. I have worked with Lori in the past, Bill as well. She's been a big supporter of the program from the bank there. We also, last week, had our annual meeting we do every year, sit down with a group of invited ag and natural resource extension agents from the University of Kentucky, and just have a couple-hour discussion about our programs, of what's working, what's not, what are you seeing from the producer level, from the facilitator and educator level on these, and there's a lot of good dialogue back and forth as we can see things through their eyes at how they're working with them, and they can learn a little bit more about kind of why some of our guidelines are what they are. And this kind of kicks off our season as we're going into the fall to look at any changes we'll make to county level programs. And so that will be taking place over the next couple of months. Decisions will be made at the November board meeting, and then any changes will take place for the 24 calendar year as it starts. So I appreciate, again, our partners with Extension that did this. Another meeting Bill and I were part of was with Community Ventures yesterday. They have received a grant from the USDA for meat and poultry processing. This can be utilized in loans for new and existing facilities, and even have a provision for refinancing existing debt. The interest rates are below market rates. Currently, their money is at 4% for long-term fixed rates, and so we believe this is going to be another tool that can be utilized with ag finance dollars to further help our meat processors in Kentucky. Moving on through our guide, our packet we put together for you, we see there was a great outing by members of the Tobacco Oversight Committee with Representative King and Roark and Senator Webb that went to the local and got a visit with a recent recipient of Ag Development Funds, Birch Bragg, owner there. And I hope you all had a good tour. And when I saw the newsletter, and I shared this with my board as well, so they saw you all there. I wished I had been able to work my schedule to have joined you. So maybe we'll have to do another one at some point. I've also included in your packet the agenda for what will be our next joint board meeting. We'll have both boards, Ag Finance and Ag Development Board, together down in Christian County for what we've put together with an emphasis on several projects, both from loans and from grants for value-added ag processing. We'll be making stops at Seven Springs Farms in Trigg County for their straw blankets. You'll see construction projects, roadways, conservation projects where you'll see these big straw blankets. They're manufacturing those right there in Katie's. Hampton Premium Meats, one of our meat processors that we've worked with, and new ownership but a going concern. I know Chairman Dawson's driven by it for years. It was right down from my first office, and had many a lunch there. But they're undergoing a big expansion and renovation of their facility, and we want to showcase that to the board. Seymour Milling, Hopkinsville Elevator, and the Commonwealth Agri Energy, both terminal markets there for wheat and corn, and then Casey Jones Distillery, bourbon distillery there will be having a reception. Invite members of the committee, any staff that would love to join us there. Chairman Dawson, I hope you are in the area and can join us for some of those stops. I know some of them get really close to your where you live. I'm excited about this because this again where I'm from, and really am proud of these projects for not only what they've been able to do just for the agriculture community, but what they've done for the overall community. Big economic impact. That is on Thursday, November the 16th. The following day, the 17th, we'll have both boards together for a board meeting. Next, I have a list of all the upcoming board meetings that you have. The ones marked in yellow are joint board meetings. We try to do 2 of those a year to where we get both of our boards together. All right, the next sheet in your packet is summation of all of our August loans that were approved. We had 11 loans in total, 2 in our ag infrastructure program and 9 beginning farmers. A total of $2.2 million approved, but going into total capital investment of over $12 million. We normally will do up to 50% of a project for 4 out of our 5 loan programs, up to a max of $250,000. Our ag processing is left to the discretion of the board based on producer impact. So, we lose sight often that we think we're 50% of these projects, but you see we're definitely a smaller percent of all that's going in. And that's what we want to be. We're here to help keep the lenders making these loans. We want to be significant enough that the producer benefits from it. It's worth everybody's time to do it. But again, we're trying to assist lenders in keeping capital moving, not at all competing with lenders. And I regret Senator Boswell is not here today because he asked a question that last month when I was here and riding back home, back to the office with Bill, I said, I'm not sure I answered what he asked me on that, but he asked what interest rates we were seeing, and I know I've explained many times that our interest rates don't move. We have a fixed rate that has not changed since the inception of the program, and our rate is 2% fixed for up to 15 years. We allow the participating lender to put a 75 basis point or 0.75% on top. So the total cost to the borrower is 2.75 fixed, and that hasn't changed. Now, bankers, and I'm an old banker, so that was what I was answering with Senator Boswell's question, where the rates were for our participating lenders. And I said we're seeing things in the 7 to 9% with the majority of our lenders coming in. But wanted to make sure that everybody on this committee understood the ag finance dollars are fixed and the rate has not moved. So you will see higher demand when the interest rates have increased to where they are. For those of you new on this committee, we were not seeing this level of request each month. The first 18 months I was here, we were essentially self-funding. Our portfolio has grown to the point now we're receiving back each month about $1 million in return of principal and interest, and that was about what we were seeing in new requests coming in. That's now more than doubled, and I think was it 5 months ago, Bill, we had over $5 million in 1 month. So we will see higher demand when interest rates are up, but the philosophy from the Ag Development and Ag Finance is, again, we're here to have a nominal rate of return. Our mission is to keep the capital moving, to keep taking that subordinate position and helping the lenders make the loans.
Probably ought to mention Farm Service Agency, since they participate a lot in the programs. Their interest rates can be around the 3%.
Yeah, that's correct. What Bill's talking about 50% of the loans in our loan portfolio involve the Farm Service Agency in some capacity, either being a participant or a joint lender in the project, or providing an FSA guarantee where they'll guarantee 90 to 95% of the principal balance for the commercial lender. But their rates are below market. They're the lender of first opportunity. They're a need-based lender, and so their loan rates are always below market. So yes, if you can utilize Ag Finance and Farm Service Agency dollars, the rates will be significantly lower. Our press release immediately follows in the packet. And then I think we gave you 2 copies of our meeting list after I looked at it, but we really, really want you all to know when we meet. So
If you'll just take 1 second, Brian. Representative Dossett?
He can conclude.
Okay.
Once Brian concludes, I've got a question I'll ask him.
okay, I'll conclude now. We're ready to go into county level programs, and Bill's going to pick that up.
Brian, thank you very much. The other day, you and I and the commissioner, we were texting concerning an issue that was brought to my attention Monday concerning angular leaf spot on our tobacco. And we're hearing that it's what a big issue that's hitting in Western Kentucky. Have you been able to pick up any information?
I have. I knew the weather we had been having has not been ideal for what tobacco needs, and that's one of the problems in Kentucky with our heavy double cropping. For when you're raising corn, wheat, soybeans, and tobacco, it's nearly impossible to hit a home run in all four of those crops, because what one is needing at the time the other may not need, and that is the case with what we've had with some of the successive rain in tobacco. I did, as soon as I heard from Chairman Dossett and the commissioner was he's traveling out west with the National Association of State Directors, so we were looping him in from afar. I reached out to Joe Kane, who is the new executive director for the Burley and Dark Tobacco Growers Association, and I knew he would have his finger on the pulse better than collectively the three of us, and he sure enough did. The angular leaf spot is more concentrated in the western part of the state with the dark tobacco. Hearing actually good things about our burley crop being really a bumper crop, but our dark tobacco is really suffering, and I was disappointed to hear that, as that one has been a bright spot in a lot of folks' enterprise budgets. To the level of damage at this point, we don't know. It's still being harvested and cured, and we'll see where we're at. But it will be taking some revenue off of these producers.
Thank you, Brian, and I appreciate the communication that we had the other day. I know one of the farmers who contacted me, we were discussing whether or not crop insurance, how that was going to affect. He said that they had seen such a decrease in their yields over the last couple of years that the crop insurance is based off of what those yields are. So that's it may pick up the expense of planting the crop, but there will not be any revenue coming in from that. So we want to keep that into consideration. And like I said, I was unaware, and I know in my conversation I had the other day, that was in the northern part of Christian County, and then I found out that it was also in the southern part there close to where I live at. And a lot of times we don't think when take into consideration, so many of our crops are dependent upon water, but tobacco tends to grow better in dry weather. So, and it has been a rough year, but I'm glad that we were able to communicate and see what might, if there's any assistance in the future, that we're aware that this is going on.
Well, I'm unaware of any assistance now, but I think it's good to have the conversation, and that is a correct statement about the trend yields in our tobacco have been declining, where the majority of our crops we're seeing an increase over time in our yields. That crop insurance is established. It's based on historic production, and when you see that going down, then you're hopeful it covers operating expenses. There still may be, with the decline, you may not cover all those, and that's crop insurance. It's there to help you live to fight another day and not insure against maximum profit. But it sure is a challenge when that was not what you were expecting when you set the tobacco.
Thank you. All right, seeing
All
no
right, we'll
desk.
move on to page 10, give you an update on the programs approved at the August Ag Development Board meeting. So again, on page 10, we can see that there was 9 entities approved to administer the CAPE program, County Agriculture Investment Program, for a total of $1.7 million. And in McCreary County and Crittenden County have an asterisk, and that signifies that they're utilizing their state money was allocated to county. So we've updated you in the past. This is the third year that the Ag Development Board has allocated some state money to counties to get less than $30,000. So that's 21 counties. It ranges anywhere from $30,000, because Pike and Knott do not receive any allocation, Representative Dawson, based on that formula the General Assembly approved back in House Bill 611 in 2000. And those two counties didn't have any burley tobacco, so there's 0. And then it goes all the way up to the most tobacco-dependent county is Barron County, and it was well over $300,000 they received. But anyway, there's 21 counties. Again, it's under that $30,000 threshold. So you can see McCreary County and Crittenden County, they're going to utilize their money. And obviously, Crittenden County has had some money holding over from last year to be able to administer the CAPE program in their county and make the money available on the cost share programs. In the CAPE program, there's 11 different investment areas, all the way from greenhouses. You can get cost share money on greenhouses, capital improvements on the farm, could be buildings, and also to buy breeding livestock. Moving on to the next category is deceased farm animal removal, $17,500 approved for 2 counties. And then the next generation program, Scott County is going to commit $25,000. And this is targeting your beginning farmer, defined as 18 to 40-year-old farmers. They can access these cost share funds. And then the youth program, we've got 5 entities were approved for a little at $87,000 to target the youth. The maximum a youth can receive in this program is $1,500, and that can be allocated on a prorated basis, not to exceed $1,500. And then page 11, we have 2 entities that were approved to amend their existing CAPE programs. The Gallatin County Farm Bureau, which is the administrating entity, was approved for original amount of $80,000 back in May. The significance of the May 2nd, 2023 is they've got 12 months from that date to disperse the funds. Any money left over that time comes back in their account and is rolled over, and they can utilize it for the next year or next program. So they were approved an amendment adding $80,000 and bringing them a total of $230,000. And then in Clay County, the entity that administers the program is Kentucky Catch, and they were approved back May the 22nd for $270,000. They're requesting additional county money of $65,000 to bring it to a total of $335,000 to offer the CAPE program in Clay County. All right, that concludes our report on programs. So next we're ready to go into the projects part of your packet. We're on page 12. The entity that was approved here is Critter Care Vet Clinic. They were approved under a new program we wrote. The Ag Development Board has rolled out as an attempt to address the large animal practitioner shortage, not only here in Kentucky, nationwide. So that's the Large and Food Animal Vet Incentives Program. And the way it's structured in this project, the total cost of the project was $36,000. And the way the Ag Development Board structured it, they could utilize this program, county and state money, and be part of it. So they're eligible for 75% of the project cost, and then they have to have county council or county money committed to it to leverage $5 of state funds. So if you look at this project, it's a little over $36,000. So $27,000 of the project cost was eligible. Next, they have to get county commitment. One of the reasons the board takes an approach of having county commitment is the leadership in the county knows the landscape better than the Ag Development Board here in Frankfort, so they like to have participation or input by the local entity in the county council, and then they can leverage state money. In this case, it's $1 county money leverages $5 of state money. So $27,000 to be approved for $27,000, they would have to have $4,511 in county money committed, and then that leverages $22,555 in state money. So when a veterinarian calls us and asks about the program, how much county money do we have to have? We say, what's your total project cost? Well, 75% of it, and then divide that number by 6. And 1/6 is what they have to have county money committed to leverage the 5/6 of the state money. So it's a little bit of a calculation we have to go through, but in this case, they were approved for equipment to do what they call a blood chemistry analyzer. So in the past, Dr. Rogers has had to send off the blood sample to the Breathitt Veterinary Diagnostic Center. It takes days to get that result. Now he can do it in real time and then make his diagnosis and treat livestock quicker. And so this is, I think we were on our way over, Brian. This is one of maybe 5 or 6 applicants that we have coming in. If you want to share about how we're trying to.
Well, it was, but Bill and I, as we were walking in, we were running through the mental list of the ones for this veterinary program that we've done. You start back. This came out of the working group that the commissioner put together to start addressing this situation. And we've had a loan program since the existence of our loan program, but we've learned through these working group meetings. Now, every member of the General Assembly knows that we fund the spots at our Auburn and Tuskegee for students and have the reciprocity agreement with that. And very thankful for you all and your colleagues for the continued support of that. But the rising cost of education, we have learned that the average student coming out of one of these schools that, again, we have the reciprocity, so they're getting the state rates, they're coming out with $250,000 in student debt. So the last thing some of these veterinarians need is additional debt. So that was where we launched the grant program to come out. And we don't have a requirement for a certain amount of your practice that must be devoted to the large and food animal. That's why we're involving these county councils. We want the local producers. They know that if this veterinarian is providing this service to the clients in there, to be involved with what they're doing. And I've been fortunate. I've sat into a couple of these county council meetings where they've made this decision, and it's been very widely supported and with enthusiasm from these folks that what we're doing. Bill and I were recapping the projects we've done. We've seen two that have added equipment because another practice in the area ceased or limited the amount of practice they were doing to the large and food animals. We saw one where a veterinarian passed away and had somebody buy the practice to keep it going in the area. And then another one, we had a veterinarian that was able to buy into the practice and get an equity stake, and that's what we're hoping is with that maybe that can help with some of the economic imbalance to what we're doing. So it's exciting for me to see in this case where a need was identified, a program was established, guidelines put together, and then implemented, and to see the ability of the Ag Development Fund to have that type of flexibility and response is exciting.
Thank you. Representative King has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to save this question for our next Agriculture Committee meeting, but since we're on the topic, I thought it would just throw this out in case you've got any information. Am I correct in understanding, I think it's Murray or maybe one of our Kentucky schools is looking into adding a veterinary program? How long would that take? Decades to get into place if we're able to do that? Or do you have any idea of the turnaround on if that's possible?
Representative King, I do not.
Okay.
I have seen the same things
Okay.
on social media and the news release. I'm excited to come to the first meeting and start learning some of the particulars about it. I don't know, Bill, do you have any?
I guess how soon y'all could write a check for it.
Okay. Thank you very much. I might ask that same question in Ag next week, staff, so here we go.
Okay, thank you. You can move on.
All right, page 13. Our next project was a county level project. Fayette County Farm Bureau. They requested $2,500 in Fayette County funds to purchase grain rescue extraction kit. This was approved. The Lexington Fayette Urban County government was providing the match, and these are great programs. We're proud to see these done, and this was one I've worked with Representative Reed on to relax a little bit of our reporting. We're pretty good on our compliance at doing this, but honestly, this is an expense we hope never gets used, and so we ensure the equipment has been purchased, and then we're done. We don't need a report every year telling us that we had 0 rescues because that honestly is what we're hoping for.
All right, next on page 14, you've got an update on Hart County Fair Association. Was approved for $20,695, and that's half the cost of the building improvements to the Agriculture Center building that already exists, and that was funded with county ag development funds as well. So they're taking the opportunity to do some expansion in different phases and utilizing the county ag development funds.
Right on page 15, we have a request from the Pennyroyal Farm Analysis Group. This is a nonprofit that partners with the University of Kentucky and provides a joint public-private consulting extension program. And this is a very dear group to me. This was where I began my career. I first served 5 years as a farm management specialist down in Hopkinsville working for this organization. And even then, we were talking about what the future of this program is going to look like. As you all are well aware, the challenges universities have and having to reevaluate every dollar they're spending. There's always been a discussion as to the balance of what is paid for by the producer, what is paid for by the university. And they continue to struggle with hiring staff. There's been a vacancy in Bowling Green that has been open for a couple of years, and working to try to fill that position, which I believe it is now filled. But that was sort of the catalyst to where the board looked at, do we need to be looking at the future, and what are other states doing about this program, and what can we model our program for? So they took initiative, made the application, got matching funds from many of the end users of this program, the lenders, with support coming from Farm Credit Mid-America, Planters Bank, Franklin Bank and Trust, South Central Bank, and the Kentucky Corn Growers have all put up matching funds with this. And they've hired Alita Botts, formerly executive director of K-Card, to complete this study. And what she is looking at is not just how this program works, but how other states are doing, and what could the future of this program look like. And it has the full support of the university and other associations. There are other associations involved, but the Pennyroyal Group was the one that took the chance. And looking at this morning, Chairman Dawson, I got thinking the first time you and I met. You may not remember it, but it was at the Kroger in Hopkinsville, standing at looking at the chips aisle, and we have a very good mutual friend, Jeff Davis. He was the first farmer I called on in Christian County, and we made the connection through that. And 23 years later, I bet neither one of us thought we would be sitting here today in Frankfort having this discussion about it. But a little nostalgia as I was prepping for this morning.
Brian, I do remember that. And amazing when you brought up a close friend of mine, Jeff Davis, who's a farmer there in Pembroke. He goes by a nickname that we all call him by there at home, Chubbs. We had a partnership in a potato chip franchise for about 4 years, and actually covered a big portion of West Kentucky and Fort Campbell itself and in Tennessee. But I can still remember that day meeting you there on that chip aisle. And I said it probably helped me get elected because I was there every day making sure those chips were full, and I saw people walking by constantly. So
that's what you said. I said I asked if that was who you were, because I thought no other customer is going to take this interest in these potato chips, and you said yes, these are Chubb's chips, and so that was our connection.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to page 16. So this is our last project. It's the Marshall County Extension Office, or our Extension Board is the applicant, was approved for a total of $174,500 in state funds and $10,000 in Marshall County funds to support a permanent farmers market pavilion. So the leadership in Marshall County has been talking about this for several years. I've been down, had several meetings with them to explain the process of securing state ag development funds, because the Ag Development Board has made farmers markets a priority, and they put their money where their mouth is, and they make state funds available up to $250,000 for farmers markets. And obviously this fits in Senator Webb with this whole transition of being able to connect our farmers with consumers, and farmers markets is one way of doing that. So we're up to over 70 farmers market permanent structures that have been built across Kentucky. So this finally came to fruition when the Extension District Board had an opportunity to buy a vacant church. They said this would be a great location for our extension office, and now we can move forward on this farmers market project. So they've got all their chips in on this project to build this farmers market they've been talking about for some time, because they've been operating out of the existing extension office parking lot. So this will give them a permanent structure where they can connect with the consumers there in Marshall County.
And that concludes our report. Welcome. Any questions?
Any other questions? All right. Thank you both so much. Appreciate the information and the hard work you all are doing across the state.
Thank you all.
I'm trying to figure out how I can be there in Christian County in November. We'll see. You're going to go?
I think we should see if leadership will allow us to have our committee meeting.
There. Well, we will work on that and get back to you. Next, we will welcome the Tobacco Prevention Cessation Program. If you all want to join us at the desk, I know I'll let you introduce yourselves first so we know exactly which one of you is which, and I apologize I've not met either of you, so
Hey, nice to meet you from a distance.
there you go.
Thank you all for having us so much today. I'm Ellen Cartmel, and I am the manager of the Tobacco Prevention and Cessation Program.
All right.
And this is Elizabeth.
I'm Elizabeth Anderson Hoagland. I am the Section Supervisor of Health Promotion at the Department for Public Health.
Great. Well, welcome to you both. I know you all were notified about 2 months about this presentation being here today, so I've been anxiously awaiting it. I actually went back and reviewed all of September 2022 materials because you gave pretty much the same presentations a year ago, and I was just kind of curious what had been changed from then until now. I do want to share, it was a little bit frustrating getting the materials in. I know our LRC staff does a phenomenal job making sure they have a process in place and getting the materials in and going through their due diligence. It just seemed like we had some challenges maybe on the other side, respect for both processes, and I certainly respect the executive branch needing to take their time and due diligence, but there's got to be kind of respect on both sides. So I know I had some concerns about that. I know Chair Dossett had some concerns, so I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Yes, and thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to express my concerns. We need this information in. It is beneficial not only to us, but more importantly to our LRC staff, so that they're not overwhelmed. They're handling so many different committees. It's very important that we get this information in a timely manner. I also know this isn't the first time we've run into this type of issue of getting information. I know while I was serving as chair of the Budget Review Subcommittee on Personnel, Public Retirement, and Finance, we have information that we have requested from the Personnel Cabinet that has not arrived, and it was first requested in July of 2021. And there was legislation actually had to be passed during this past session that documentation had to be in our hands before the 1st of November of this year. So it's something we really want to make sure we see this information get to us quickly, and we ask that you pass on, and this needs to go to every cabinet there within the executive branch. This information needs to come to us. Not so much for us, but this information also is important to the citizens of the Commonwealth. So
Thank you, Chair. And again, that may not be necessarily your all's, I'll say responsibility or fault, but when I'm asking for material and we're not getting the go-ahead, it's because the executive branch hasn't been able to share it with the LRC staff. And when we're 24 hours before a meeting, we're not getting it. That's really disrespectful to their process. And that's what I'm looking for, is respect on both sides. And we're sharing it publicly so that somebody can be maybe a little more accountable, because I'm excited about this information. I'm really passionate about seeing Kentuckians get healthier, and so I'm looking forward to it. But we wanted to kind of set the stage for that, and then I'll turn it over to you, or Ellen, I'm so sorry. Are you going to start?
Yeah, Ellen's going to start. I'll just say we'll pass those comments on to our Cabinet Secretary's office.
That would be much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, let's hear it.
So I absolutely appreciate your excitement to hear this. We are always excited to share what we're doing because we know that it works when it's helping Kentuckians. So every opportunity we get to share this information with you, we love to take advantage of that. So as I said, I'm Ellen Cartmel. I'm the manager of this program. We all know that tobacco use is bad for us, so I won't belabor this slide. And as you said, it is a slide that we used last year. But I want to draw attention to the fact that smoking is killing more Kentuckians than alcohol use, drug use, car accidents, murders, suicides, and AIDS combined. It is our number one preventable cause of death in the Commonwealth. However, this is not just a case of mortality, it's also a case of morbidity because it's also our number one preventable cause of disability and disease. So I want to focus now a little bit more on the financial toll. This has been updated from last year with updated metrics. While we're bringing in about $496 million a year in tobacco tax revenue for the state, we're immediately spending more than that just in Medicaid expenses to address smoking use. We're spending about, I think it was, $634 million just in Medicaid expenses. Is this better? Do you want me to repeat anything? Okay. Those Medicaid expenses are just a portion of the entire healthcare costs that we're facing as a state. The direct healthcare costs of tobacco use are about $2.23 billion with a B for our state every year. So what that shakes out to is over $1,200 per Kentucky household in state and federal taxes from government expenditures caused by smoking. And again, this is every household, not just households that have someone in there who uses tobacco products. This is also having a greater detrimental effect on our economy overall because in addition to that $2.23 billion that the state is spending just on healthcare expenses, we also have employers looking at over $3 billion in costs of employing people who smoke. And the way that we get to that number is by looking at estimated productivity losses, absenteeism due to illness, and then healthcare costs, and multiplying that toward the number of people in Kentucky's labor force who we believe to be smokers. And if you all are interested in these statistics, you have the actual study that came from the University of Kentucky, and it's broken down by county in your packet. So we are really fortunate that employers do see this as an issue, and they are looking forward to trying to help with this. So we have two guests here today. I have Ashley Badar and Dr. Heiss from the Three Rivers District Health Department. They graciously drove up. Ashley had reached out to Dorman Products in Gallatin County and said, can we provide smoking cessation classes, quit smoking classes to your employees? And Dorman not only said yes, they said, you can do it here and we will pay the employees for their time. That's that important to them that they can help people quit. So this was a wonderful success story that we wanted to highlight, and they're hoping to do it again this fall. Another piece of good news is that 88% of Kentucky smokers say that they want to quit, of adults, and that's over 500,000 Kentuckians, which is really, really exciting, and we want to help them. Unfortunately, fewer than half of them know that we have a service to help them called 1-800-QUIT-NOW. It's also in Kentucky called Quit Now Kentucky, and that is one of the most valuable resources that we can provide to them. And I say that for two reasons. The first reason that I say that it's extremely valuable is that people who use 1-800-QUIT-NOW are twice as likely to be able to quit and stay quit as people who try to do it on their own or go cold turkey. So we know that this is effective and that it works. The other reason why it's a great asset for us is that it has a good return on investment. So you also have in your packet an ROI from the University of Kentucky that shows that for every $1 we are investing in Quit Now Kentucky, we can expect over $4 in returned future cost savings. So one of the only things that we can do that is more effective than the quit line that we know of is prevention. So there's a reason they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we can keep people from ever getting addicted to these products, that is the way to go. Now we've mostly focused on working with students because the vast majority of people who are adults who are addicted to these products become addicted before the age of 18 or before they can legally purchase these products. And if current trends continue, we can expect, hope not to see, but expect 120 Kentucky kids to ultimately die prematurely from their own smoking down the long run. Now I have this slide again from last year, but I think it really paints an excellent picture of what we're dealing with here when it comes to e-cigarettes, because when these came on the scene, it really changed the landscape for us. You can see we had all of these different types of tobacco use nationally were trending downwards. They were also trending downwards for the state. And then here come e-cigarettes, which make it easier, to consume much easier and faster to consume greater quantities of nicotine, and therefore are more addictive than many tobacco products. And so according to the 2021 Kentucky Incentives for Prevention survey, which is the most recent Kentucky data we have, over 20% of Kentucky sophomores and seniors in high school had used an e-cigarette in the past 30 days. So in addition to that being scary on its own, we're also concerned that this can lead to a new generation of smokers, because there are several studies that show that young people who use e-cigarettes are more likely to start using traditional combustible cigarettes a year later. And one study found that they had 8 times higher odds of currently using cigarettes a year later. So this is a big issue that we're seeing in our schools. I have here data from Infinite Campus, which is where the schools house information on what's going into the school, or what's going on in the schools. We have this from the 2021 to 2022 school year, and you can see of all of the categorized behavior events in Infinite Campus for Kentucky, nearly 40%, 39%, were violations of tobacco-free policies. So usually this is vaping in a classroom, vaping in a bathroom, vaping in a hallway. And the fact that it's such a big issue paints a picture of why we need to address it. But also this shows that schools are tracking this. They are willing to report students for this, but they are desperate for resources on how to address it. So they're constantly reaching out to their local health departments, reaching out to us, and want to know what they can do. So right now we have 3 answers for them that the state is helping provide. So the first is My Life, My Quit. The way I talked about 1-800-QUIT-NOW and Quit Now Kentucky, My Life, My Quit is the teen version of that. It's for anybody under 18. The other big difference between Quit Now Kentucky and My Life, My Quit is My Life, My Quit for youth. You can do all of your coaching by text message, because we know a 15-year-old is not going to pick up the phone and want to talk to a coach. But if they can do it all over their texting, they're much more likely to do that. And this, just like 1-800-QUIT-NOW, is offered at no cost to the person who's calling, so that's not a barrier for them, and it's also confidential. So we are trying to get these posters and this information into schools, youth organizations, anywhere else we can. We also have a curricula from American Cancer Society that we promote. Sorry, not American Cancer Society, American Lung Association that we promote, which is In Depth. It's an alternative to suspension curriculum for schools, so that primarily for first-time offenders, when you find these kids who are vaping in the bathroom or wherever they're vaping, that's a great time for an intervention and giving them some education on what's going on here and how can you stop using this product, because just getting them in trouble isn't as effective as getting them in trouble and giving them help to not get in trouble next time. So In Depth is something that we promote. And then we've also trained a number of people to offer not on tobacco cessation classes for youth, and we're trying to connect those people to schools as well. So I have here a success story. I know that one partner that you all have enjoyed hearing about in the past is the University of Kentucky's #I Can End the Trend program, which sends UK college students to high schools and middle schools at no cost to talk about e-cigarette prevention. We're still doing that. It's still very successful. We would love to invest more in it. But that idea is also spreading, which is what I have here. We had 4 students from Hardin County high schools who said, we want to do peer education here in our high school. We want to talk to our peers about this. So they reached out to their local health department, which is Lincoln Trail District, and they also reached out to us. We were able to tell them, here's what we think works. Let them adapt that for their schools, for their peers, the people they know, and they took that to the HOSA State Leadership Conference and won first place. So we were very proud of them for engaging with this, and it goes to show that students do want help, and they want to be able to help each other. So because my 2 success stories were both from health departments, I have just a slide that shows which health departments we are funding. So with our master settlement agreement funds that we received in the biennial budget, we are funding about 1/3 of Kentucky's 61 health departments. So those are the ones that are in blue, are the ones that are getting funding from us at this time. And the way that that looks when we look at just our $2 million budget is immediately 50%, half, we're saying we're putting this into local communities. The other half, about 30%, is going into cessation, either My Life, My Quit, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, or other cessation outreach, like we work with the Kentucky Cancer Program to provide outreach to veterans, working with hospitals to get them integrated into our electronic health referral system, etc. And then the other 20% on other prevention, like the University of Kentucky program that I mentioned, or just general education and coalition building. Now, those last categories, the ones that are not health department, they are also subsidized by CDC because we do have a grant from CDC for $1.6 million per year. That CDC grant is where my salary comes from, the personnel costs for my team, and it also pays for our travel and supplies. It helps support the quit lines, our partners, and then it does a little bit with media. I don't have, I have media just a little A between MSA because the bulk of it is coming from CDC, but anything that we can put from MSA into promoting prevention and promoting the quit line, we want to do. So I hope that this shows that we have some things that we know are working and that we are excited to share about. And according to the CDC, for every dollar we are investing in a comprehensive tobacco control program, Kentucky can expect to see a $55 return on investment. So that is my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions now or
Okay.
after Elizabeth. Yeah, I can
We
go
do
now.
have some questions. We'll
Absolutely.
start. One, I really appreciate the presentation. No question. I think it's 15 Kentuckians are diagnosed every day with lung cancer. 8 die every year from lung cancer. The opportunity cost of those who are not working due to having lung-related diseases is astronomical for our state. So this is a huge initiative for me personally. I have a lot of friends who've been through this program, and I have kids that are in that high school, middle school area. So the vaping issue is absolutely a concern, especially when they can do it so easily, so without anybody seeing it. And you're right for that the long-term trajectory, even if we are reducing cessation of smoking with adults who want to choose, we are raising a generation that will very much quickly move towards that. So I'm really curious about a couple of things.
Sure.
One, you mentioned very early on about the Quit Now Kentucky, and I've been promoting that when I've had a chance to talk about it. Do you view that as the most effective way of, because for me, that 88% who want to choose to have better tools to quit, I think is your most area of opportunity. And so is going after that would be most helpful. How do you view that program being effective, and if there's ways to be more effective in particular with that moving forward?
Sure. So the most effective thing that you can do to quit smoking is often to get one-on-one counseling. So if you can meet with a tobacco treatment specialist, they're usually in a clinic and there's billing for it. So 1-800-QUIT-NOW is the most, I would say, cost-effective thing we can do to reach everybody in their home where they are. We do know that the recommendation is that people be able to do 8 calls, and unfortunately for most Kentuckians, we only have the budget to provide 5 calls. And we also know that the other thing that really, really helps people quit is nicotine replacement therapy. So gum, patches, lozenges, Nicorette, the things that you hear about. We are able to provide that through the quit line to many people, but not to all people. So in a perfect world, we could make the quit line more effective by being able to provide more nicotine replacement therapy, being able to provide more calls, and just making sure that more people know about it, because a lot of the costs, when we think about that ROI, a lot of the costs we have are flat costs, like having a website, paying for the counselors. So whether we have 1,000 callers or 10,000 callers, that can really make a big difference on how much we're getting back out of the program.
I agree. That was what I was kind of curious about. It seems like the materials are there, the infrastructure is there. It's just getting more people to see it, know it, providing maybe additional funding for more calls, or at least replacement would be 2 options that would make that more effective. And no question the ROI is there. And then I was really interested, I did a little bit of research on the UK program and the peer-to-peer. I think having kids in those ages, I can say it all day long. Someone else says it, and all of a sudden it's gospel truth.
Especially if they're a UK student.
Yeah,
They're very
absolutely.
cool.
And I love the peer-to-peer. Until I read about it, I hadn't seen that one. So is it a funding issue to help get that more out there? Is that basically, is there any other options to be more supportive of those kind of programs?
Yes, I would say primarily funding issue, primarily capacity. So they list at the beginning of each semester, they publish, hey, all you schools, if you want us to come to your school, let us know. And it fills up so quickly their calendar. So they really need to be able to hire more students so that they can go to more schools. I think within like a couple of weeks of putting that link out there, they already had a wait list. So it's like, well, if this school cancels, then maybe we can come to you. But the desire is really there. They just really need to be able to train more students.
Do you think that's, and just to follow up, is that something that U of L could do, other universities that our states could do in their own areas, maybe decrease costs, increase, proximity, people to get in? Is that something we can replicate, I guess is the question.
I think so, and I would love to see that. I also know that Dr. Ickes, who is the creator of this program at the University of Kentucky, she has had a lot of interest in that too, because she knows she has kind of she needs help. So she's like, who wants to get on board with this?
It's very limited. I mean, just where we are at UK, if we can have other universities take on some of that responsibility and reach out to those that are closer, and that would be a great force multiplier, if you will. So I appreciate both those. I know, Senator Webb, you have a question?
Please, I want to thank Ellen. I've watched her grow up, and I've watched her grow in this capacity, and I appreciate the job that you do. I look at, I was texting your neighbor in Lewis County, Superintendent Weddington, throughout this presentation, because we have such an issue with vaping in Lewis County schools, and a very high level of frustration. And I think we need to acknowledge and realize this is not just tobacco these kids are vaping. To begin with, we don't know what they're buying at the convenience store or who's whipping it up somewhere, and I've always asked the question of what's in this stuff, but never really got a good answer from anybody. But illegal drugs are also part of this vaping issue. But and I look at the 18th district, who historically has been some of the most tobacco impacted, and in the 5 co-region, and then Lewis and Buffalo Trace, Fleming, Mason, without having these programs in place. So I've advised my superintendent to reach out to the health department, but also now UK has partnerships with, let's say, St. Clair and King's Daughters and Ashland. So I'm sitting here thinking, how can we maximize these partnerships that are now in existence with UK or the community college system in Maysville and Ashland, and how we could better address this on a local level, because historically I've got a high incidence of smokers per capita in my district. It's not blue, and that kind of bothers me because we just have it's a cultural phenomenon. These kids now are doing it, and it's a problem in our schools. It's affecting performance and graduation rates and everything else, because it's not just tobacco, folks. So we've got to come up with, as policymakers, some kind of mechanism, not only with penalties or with programs or something, prevention, but also addressing the people that are doing it. So I'm going to get on my soapbox a minute here. We've got to do some things, and we've got to do them pretty quick, in my opinion, because it's everywhere. And I appreciate what you do, but if we could have discussions about how to maximize in these desert areas that are in white, either through partnerships with maximizing health department participation, or the University of Kentucky, or the community college system, I think we'd be kind of on the right track and using dollars wisely. But thanks for listening. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and I could not agree with you more. I know. Oh, go ahead.
Elizabeth just suggested that I mentioned that we do have an anti-vaping task force specifically for youth that has been developed since last year's presentation, where we've been working with the Department for Behavioral Health, Department of Education, like trying to bring in a Department of Agriculture's hemp program, trying to bring in as many people as possible to get to the table, because we need all the help we can get, and these students need all the help they can get.
They do, and I'm interested in that as well. I mean, I just know I could give several stories of where kids are using Snapchat to buy vapes. They're going to UK, they're getting it, they have no idea what they're getting, 2 of which were laced with fentanyl, end up in the hospital because these 13, 15-year-olds did not know what they were purchasing. And it's a huge problem, and that's just what I know about, not to mention those who I know are spreading it, to your point of having not just e-cigarette influence. It's dangerous on a number of fronts. So I know you hear us being concerned about it. We want to help you in that for sure. Representative Rourke?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ellen, for your presentation. I wanted to ask a question around the cost comparison of e-cigarettes versus traditional packs of cigarettes. I have a lot of friends and folks in my circle who maybe are above 18 but are still kind of finding, going to college, or they're trying to find employment. And what I see is that, the e-cigarettes become very addictive very fast. They're already suffering from things like anxiety and depression, and, don't have a lot of income to support now something that they're addicted to. So I've definitely seen the detrimental kind of spiral, especially in the 18 to 24 age range and even after. But do you have any information on kind of the cost comparison of how much folks are spending on e-cigarettes as compared to traditional cigarettes?
I don't think I have anything on that in my notes prepared, but I would be happy to get an answer to you. Absolutely. I wrote down anxiety and depression because I'm glad that you brought that up. There was a national study done that found that I want to say 81% of youth who started using e-cigarettes said that they did it because they had this mistaken belief that it would help with anxiety or depression or stress. And that we see that with college students a lot too. They're like, well, maybe this will help me take the edge off when I'm trying to study. And in reality, when you're addicted to those products, it just creates a vicious cycle of withdrawal. And that was something that, I fell into too as a college student. I was like, well, maybe if I smoke, that'll help. If I have a cigarette, that'll calm me down. It's like, no, that only works if you're already addicted to nicotine because it's easing your nicotine withdrawal. If you aren't already addicted, then it doesn't calm you down. It actually gives you a buzz. So these are all messages that we are trying very hard to get out. I can look into the cost difference. And one thing that I'm thinking of, because Senator Webb mentioned we don't know what's in these products, and you talked about people getting addicted really quickly, is the amount of nicotine in an e-cigarette is so much higher than what's in a cigarette, and you're also getting more of it. So when you are using a cigarette, it's going to burn down whether you're inhaling it or not. So you're probably only getting 1 to 2 milligrams of nicotine from a cigarette. An e-cigarette can hold much, much higher. I want to say that the study I found when I was preparing was like 20 milligrams. Varies from 3 milligrams to 36 milligrams in just one e-cigarette, and it's coming all to you because it's activated when you use it. So definitely a big concern, and I'm happy to look into the cost.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I think just if folks also one thing that would really motivate folks to, I think, seek help. I really like the My Life, My Quit. My Life, My Quit. I was going to say My Life, My Choice. But My Quit is really helpful. And I think even kind of beyond 18 would really have a lot of helpful points of connection, because I definitely know a lot of folks that still fall into that age range of not wanting to talk to someone on the phone, or don't feel like they have time to talk to someone on the phone. They get very nervous about talking on the phone. Yes. That phone anxiety is so real for a lot of my peers. So yeah, I would definitely love to see expansion in the text program, because I do think that being able to be anonymous is so important for people when they're wanting to seek help and feel like they're in a vulnerable place.
Yes. And Quit Now Kentucky, so it actually does have a protocol that is for people who are under 24. We have several different protocols. So if you call Quit Now Kentucky 1-800-QUIT-NOW and you are pregnant, then instead of getting 5 calls, you can actually get 9 calls, because that's how much we really, really want you to quit while you're pregnant. If you have a diagnosis of a behavioral health condition like another substance use disorder, depression, anxiety, PTSD, you can get, I think, 8 calls instead of 5. When I say 5 calls, that's kind of like the standard. That's the minimum. And some people can get more. But yes, we have definitely noticed that there is this kind of gap between 18 and 24, maybe a little older than 24, where you're still a youth. You're not a teen, but you still have some of those mindsets. Your brain is still developing until the age of 26. And so they have some more text capacity, but I don't think the full text capacity of My Life, My Quit yet.
Got it. Thank you. And thank you for those questions. I think the workforce issue is real. It's a school issue, it's a workforce issue, it's a health issue. So thank you very much for your update. I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Hoagland.
Thank you very much. It is hard to follow Ellen, but I will try. I'm Elizabeth Anderson Hoagland, and I am the Section Supervisor of Health Promotion at the Kentucky Department for Public Health. Let me move this a little bit. I am actually Ellen's supervisor. So the health promotion program includes the tobacco prevention and cessation program, the state physical activity and nutrition program, and the lung cancer screening program.
If you would use the middle mic, I think it might be a little more reliable than that one. We'll see.
Is it on? Oh, I might. Excuse me while I shuffle a little bit. So I am the current contact for the lung cancer screening program at the Department for Public Health. If you want to go to the, go for it. So the good news is that last year the legislature passed a bill establishing a lung cancer screening program at the Department for Public Health. And just to refresh everyone's memories, it has 3 broad overall goals, which is to increase lung cancer screening, reduce morbidity and mortality, and reduce the cost of healthcare cost of treating lung cancer. So, nice, easily achievable goals. The legislation also established an advisory committee with the goals of reviewing relevant data, clinical guidelines, best practices, provide recommendations to the program, establish and oversee education and outreach campaigns, and provide an annual report to the legislature, which I am working on the annual report right now. As we're talking about deadlines, I'm working on it, I promise. Go ahead. The other good news is that we do have good guidance about lung cancer screening. And we also have insurance coverage. So Medicare Part D and Medicaid both reimburse for annual preventive low-dose CT scans for eligible Kentuckians. And so those guidelines are ages 50 to 80, or with Medicare, it's 50 to 77. A 20 pack year smoking history, which pack years are calculated if you smoke a pack of cigarettes a day for 20 years, that is a 20-year pack smoking history. If you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day for 10 years, that's a 20 pack year smoking history, half pack a day for 40 years. So that's kind of how the math adds up. And then if you are a current smoker or if you've quit within the past 15 years. So if you meet those eligibility guidelines, you are eligible for that low dose CT scan until you kind of age out of it. And we do want to emphasize that this needs to be an annual screen. You can't go once and say, oh, I'm all good. Like, you need to keep an eye on that year after year, because unfortunately some cancers are very fast growing. So we need to be able to keep an eye on those. The other thing to know about, though, while I'm thinking about it, sometimes you will have that low-dose CT scan, and sometimes you just find lumps and bumps. Like, a lot of us have lumps and bumps that we don't want to think about. But as long as they're just hanging out and they're not doing anything, then it's okay just to keep an eye on them. You don't have to overtreat for something like that. When it comes to risks for lung cancer, the greatest risk is cigarette smoking. We know that about 80% of lung cancer cases are caused by someone's own smoking, and about 1 in 5 Kentuckians are currently smoking cigarettes across the state. The other major cause that we see is radon exposure, which is an odorless, colorless gas that is naturally found in some rock here in Kentucky, and then occupational exposure. So the most obvious one is firefighters, because they're around a lot of smoke. Also diesel mechanics, you can see it in coal miners. Those really nice countertops that we all get, those stone countertops, like that can cause some risk. So that's something else to keep an eye on. And I really like this map looking at radon potential. This was done by the Kentucky Geological Survey a couple of years ago. There goes my microphone again. So this is like looking at a real detail about the types of rock and the potential for radon exposure, where red is the highest risk and then blue is the lowest risk. And if you look over on the right-hand side, I actually zoomed into where we are in the annex and the Capitol. And you can see here we are in the brown, but if you go just on the other side of the parking garage, we're to green. So, if there's something to tell the public, it's that it's really worth getting your home tested, because you can see in downtown Frankfort, like, it just depends where you are on the block, your radon potential. And when it comes to mitigation for radon, compared to a lot of home repair expenses, it's relatively inexpensive. It's not cheap, but it's relatively inexpensive. So something else I want to make sure to emphasize is that screening really does make a difference. We know that if we catch lung cancer in that early localized stage, 61% of patients are going to be alive within 5 years. However, if we get to that distant, where you've had those metastases, that 5-year survival rate drops to 7%. And unfortunately, looking at stage of diagnosis, most Kentuckians right now are found at that distant stage where their survival rate is the lowest. Usually Kentucky does not show up really well in these national lists, but when it comes to lung cancer screening, we're doing really, really well in Kentucky compared to all the other states. This data is from the American Lung Association, and they are updating it this month. So it's possible if you go to their website today, they're going to have a slightly different number. But this is the 2022 report. You can see that 14.6% of eligible Kentuckians are being screened for lung cancer. And that is compared to the national rate of 5.7%. So we're doing really well compared to the national perspective. And a lot of that is due to some of the work going on already in Kentucky, UK Markey Cancer Center, the LEADS project, the Kentucky Cancer Consortium, the Kentucky Cancer Program. We've had like a really lot of concerted efforts to get this number up. I will admit I did call Massachusetts and ask what they were doing because I'm a little bit competitive. So we're going to beat them in the next couple years. And you can also see, this is maybe the happiest chart that I'm going to be able to show you today, is that lung cancer mortality is going down. And a lot of that is because we are doing more screening in the state and we're catching these lung cancers at an earlier stage. And I actually have a friend who was diagnosed a couple of months ago with that localized stage of lung cancer. It was laparoscopic surgery. They just went in, they cut it out, and that's, I'm not going to say it's a great surgery, but it's, compared to some of the treatments for cancers, that is relatively easy. And they just got to keep an eye on him for the next couple of years. And, that's really the best case scenario. And as we are getting new surgical techniques, we're getting new immunological therapies, we expect to see this fall further. So some of the things that we are doing as a program, we did get our full advisory committee seated. It took a while to get that all together. I do want to thank Representative Moser and Senator Douglas, who are our legislative representatives on the committee. They have really put in a lot of time and effort, especially in the early stages, and I appreciate that. I know they have a lot of competing priorities. We also have 2 co-chairs that have been elected to the committee. So that's Dr. Michael Gieske from St. Elizabeth Healthcare up in Northern Kentucky and Dr. Timothy Mullett from UK Markey Cancer Center. They are both really well known across the state as well as across the nation. I will even say even internationally, because Dr. Gieske was just in Singapore for the World Lung Cancer Conference. So I bug them multiple times per week. They have been extremely helpful. So I really appreciate their efforts as well. We are currently working on a strategic planning process as well as setting up an evaluation for the program. We want to make sure that we are using our resources most effectively and that we are making a difference. Since this is the leading cause of cancer death in Kentucky, we have a moral imperative to move that needle. We added some questions to the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, which is just a survey of Kentuckians to see what their knowledge and attitudes about lung cancer are. The 1-800-QUIT-NOW, we do have a protocol for lung cancer. So if you call and you are eligible based on the intake questionnaire, they're able to provide additional information about lung cancer screening. And based on our numbers, that's about 100 people per month that are getting that additional information about lung cancer. We're also working on some public education materials as well as some provider education materials. You can see right here a poster that we just created. We also have an ad running, and we're working on some editorials for MD Update, which is a magazine that goes out to healthcare providers. Things we're looking forward to in the future. Saturday, November 11th is National Lung Cancer Screening Day. I did not choose this date. I know that's Veterans Day. I'm not quite sure why they chose Veterans Day, but they did. But the purpose of Lung Cancer Screening Day is to have a screening center open on a Saturday or even evening hours during the week, because if someone works, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, they can't always get off for a healthcare provider appointment. So we want to expand that availability for people. We are participating. There's a couple of healthcare providers across the state and hospital systems that are participating. I know the Lexington and Louisville VA systems are participating, though they're not doing it on November 11th because that is Veterans Day. They're moving it to, the week or 2 behind. We're working on a comprehensive training for community health workers about cancer screening so that when they're out working in the community, they have information about various cancers, how people can protect themselves and get checked. We're thinking of a couple of different ways to increase patient navigators across the state. Patient navigators have really been shown to be a key way to increase lung cancer screening and then to get that annual follow-up. And also looking at some quality improvement initiatives. A good screening program also integrates tobacco cessation. It has that follow-up to make sure people are coming back time and time again. So we're looking at a couple of different options for here in Kentucky. So I believe that's my last slide. I do really want to thank the advisory committee. They have been wonderful with their expertise and their time and really getting this program up and established. And the last thing I will say is that we are looking to hire a permanent position to run this program, since this is sort of my second job. So knock on wood that we have a candidate in the works. So hopefully that will come through soon. And with that, I welcome any questions.
Thank you. I really appreciate that update. I'm glad to see you wanted to hire someone to help. It's a large program.
It's a very big program, and I can see how much further we could be if we had more people and more capacity. So I'm really looking forward to that, to really push this forward.
Fantastic. I know just from a personal story, I've had 2 extended family members diagnosed with lung cancer this year. One of whom was diagnosed at stage 4 and passed away within 5 months. The other went in with fatigue and maybe not sure what's going on, but met the criteria for the screening, was screened, found stage 1, did the laparoscopic, and their futures are very different because
Yeah.
of that. So
Yeah.
ideally, prevention is where we want to be. And when we can't, we need to make an effort there. We also need to respond on this side. And that early diagnosis screening is so important to catch it early and be able to make different choices moving forward. So it's critical, and I really appreciate both of y'all's efforts to all of that. Are there any questions for? All right, seeing none, you're doing a great job. Appreciate your service very much and your update.
Thank you.
All right, the last item on the agenda is our next meeting is October 12th, and I look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you. We're adjourned.